How's it going, guys? So in this short clip, I'm going to talk about three major don'ts for USMLE prep. If you've been following my content, I've talked about mistakes that you can avoid, but I'm going to consolidate around three major things that if you don't do, your scores are going to go up for USMLE. Isn't that nice? And you'll get faster increases in scores. So the first major don't is making your own Anki slash annotations from QBank. And this gets some people emotional because they get upset about not remembering everything they read, and that's okay and understandable, and that's most people. But a big waste of time is, for instance, you going through QBank explanations and you are making your own Anki cards from those explanations, or you're making your own heavy annotations, notebooks of information that you think makes you feel special because you'll look at that notebook later and nominally you think that that equates to you learning more, and it doesn't really work like that, because the only way you're really going to learn more from those notes is if you literally spend the time going back through all those notes later. But rather than doing that, it's better to just do more QBank questions. And the other thing is, even if you do review those notes, okay, so you're hyper studious, a lot of what you write down actually is not worth remembering, because you're going to write down a lot of key points in your mind, but as you move through your prep, you're going to be like, why did I even write that down? So I would rather have you just go through QBank and you do the question, you read the explanation the best you can. Don't worry if you're forgetting things, just move on. Okay? Because if it's worth remembering, put it this way, if it's worth remembering, you're going to see it multiple times in QBank anyway. If it's a question on cystic fibrosis, you're probably going to get 12 other questions on cystic fibrosis in some form. If it's some obscurity, then you're not going to encounter it again in QBank. Okay? Now, I could talk about Mehlman QBank, how we don't put bullshit in there to begin with, but if we're talking about other QBanks that you might do where there's low yield nonsense, well, that stuff's not worth remembering in the first place. That's why it's not really going to repeat. Okay? So that's the first point. Don't take your own notes / Anki from QBank. The second thing is over resource use. So excessive resource use. You guys using 4 different types of video resources, 4 different textual resources. So you really need to consolidate around a few key resources that are going to increase your score. Now, some people get angry with me because if I'm going to tell you how to get the highest score possible, you never would have guessed it, I'm going to talk about our resources at Mehlman content. So some people say, I don't want you to preach your own stuff, but simultaneously, I have a responsibility to communicate how to get the highest scores possible. So am I supposed to lie just because we have our own content? I'm not supposed to preach our stuff. You understand? So yes, we recommend you do Mehlman QBank. Yes, we recommend you do Mehlman PDFs and Anki. And you can call me an asshole, but at the same time, I have a responsibility to tell you how to get the highest score possible in the shortest amount of time. You understand? So a few resources. You've got the YouTube questions here as well. It's a free video QBank. Okay, so those of you who are, you're not able to pay your rent, do the PDFs, or an 11 out of 10. Go through the free PDFs that we have. Go through the free video QBank that we have. Okay, but if you're able to, go through Mehlman actual QBank and go through Mehlman Anki, and that's how you'll get higher scores. Now, number 3 is, in terms of things you shouldn't do, is talk to and hang out with loser friends who are very average and who are not going to push you to do better. Okay, so you want to make sure you're going to have different phases of your life and your study cycles. Okay, so not every season that you're in has to be where you're studying 12 hours a day. That can be a temporary thing. Now, many of you are studying for your comp, CBSE, step 1, step 2, COMLEX, etc. It doesn't have to be forever that you're in this season. Okay, but while you're in it, you really want to buckle down and cut out loser people. It's people who just don't study hard themselves. The most successful people punt seasons of their lives. And I'll reiterate, it can be one season, it can be many seasons. It doesn't have to be forever. So you want to have a very narrow circle of friends. You can say, well, I'm really social. I know a lot of people. You can have a lot of acquaintances, many acquaintances. Okay. But the people in your orbit, people you're spending time with, people you're taking advice from, never take advice from someone whose life you don't want. Okay, because anyone in your orbit, you either want to become more like that person or less like that person. So if it's somebody that you don't want to be like, just cut them out and really buckle down and study. Hang out with people who study really hard. That's what I did on some of my rotations. I'd gravitate toward the people who are most studious, and I would study with them on rotations. It's a good thing you can do. So those are the three major don'ts. Okay, so taking your own notes slash Anki from QBank, big waste of time. Just read the explanations, be succinct, and be able to move forward. Number two, cut down on excessive resource use. So don't study excessive resources. And number three, in terms of a don't, is hanging out with loser people. So cut people out who you would not want to be like. You know the deal. I'm going to make more content on my stuff. Subscribe to my channel. Appreciate your time. That's it.